Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. After a 3-hour and 5-minute rain delay, Purdue fought hard, staying in there until the end against USC. Final score, USC 33, Purdue 17. We're going to break this one down here today on the postgame reaction podcast. A lot of good, some not so good. Ultimately resulting in Purdue taking its first loss of the season. We're going to talk about it all. If you don't already, be sure to follow the show on Twitter at Boilers Beyond. Had a lot of fun engagement over there yesterday. Always good to interact with you all. Send me over your questions. Do so there on Twitter at Boilers Beyond. And you can always email the show, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. And subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Lots of good stuff coming up here. Going to talk some basketball in the bye week as well. Subscribe so that you don't miss anything. USC 33, Purdue 17. This game came down to the classic Jimmy's and Joe's analogy. Football is a game of attrition. It's a game of players. It's a game of speed and size and strength. And at this point in the programs, respectively, of USC in year 4 under Lincoln Riley, of Purdue in year 1 under Barry Odom, it was very obvious from the opening kick that USC had the better roster. That was inarguable immediately. You knew it right away. It didn't take the game being kicked off to know that, in all reality. But Purdue fought hard. Purdue didn't let that deter it. Purdue never once looked mentally overwhelmed or ready to quit or anything like that. Purdue fought really hard in this game. And when you look at it, Purdue doesn't have anyone to cover Jacoby Lane. On USC's first drive, it hits a 60-yard bomb to Jacoby Lane because Purdue doesn't have someone to contain him. USC was able to really pick Purdue apart when Purdue wasn't able to get pressure. And we knew that. Jaden Maeva is a good quarterback. Yeah, this is a good wide receiving room. This is a good USC team. How good? I don't know. We're going to find out throughout the season, but a combination of Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane, that's a lot. That's a lot for Purdue to handle at this point. And you saw that play out early on. You saw Purdue struggle with some of that. You saw Purdue face some ups and downs, but we knew that was going to happen. There's a reason this game had a 3-touchdown point spread. This wasn't a game that Purdue was expected to win, but Purdue fought hard, and even though Purdue was overwhelmed at a lot of spots, Purdue put itself in a position to make some noise. Purdue didn't beat itself, and that's what's really encouraging. If this was last season, this game is over as soon as Ryan Browne throws a pick in the end zone. I think that was in the first quarter. I think, right? Yeah, that was Purdue's first drive. Purdue moves the ball really well. Purdue's second drive. Purdue moves the ball well, gets downfield, 8 plays, 72 yards, ends in an interception where Ryan Browne's just trying to do a little bit too much. At that point, in a past iteration, Purdue just gets blown out the last 2 years. When it was 17-3 last year, Purdue just gets blown out. When it's 10-0, I don't know that Purdue fights back and puts together a field goal drive. Now, USC was not particularly disciplined. And you saw that be a really big differentiator early on, was that Purdue was the more disciplined team. USC committed a ton of penalties in this game. USC commits 9 penalties for 104 yards. USC has 2 sideline violations. It has a personal foul on a punt that gives Purdue fresh life. It had a roughing the passer. It had back-to-back offsides penalties. USC did a lot of things that winning teams don't do, and that wasn't a huge problem for Purdue. You had a few penalties. 5 penalties for 60 yards is more than you would like, but Purdue was the more disciplined team. Purdue tackled pretty well. Only 9 missed tackles, according to Pro Football Focus. That's a pretty respectable number. You'd obviously want it to be lower, but you'll take that. That's not bad. Purdue did the little things fairly well in this game. But the margin for error for Purdue right now is very small. It is for this season as a whole. If Purdue is going to win games, you can't have turnovers, especially in the red zone. All 3 interceptions categorized as red zone picks. I will add the one that was returned for a touchdown by the 360-pounder. I think Purdue snapped the ball at the 20, and the ball was picked off at the 30. So it was a red zone pick technically. I don't know that there was a ton Ryan Browne could have done there, because you saw Purdue's offensive line just get overwhelmed. That's a red flag. That's a really big reason for concern. Ryan Browne gets sacked 5 times in this game, and when you look at the sack-adjusted rushing totals, which a little bit misleading, Purdue averaged a little over 3 yards a carry when you take out the sacks, which, I mean, not great. Still not particularly good. But when you just look at the raw data, Purdue had 60 rushing yards. 34 of those came on Ryan Browne's touchdown run off of the double pass gone wrong. That tells you where Purdue is at up front from a physicality standpoint. Yet Purdue overcame that fairly well. There were some good things. I thought you look at Purdue's defense. I guess we'll kind of go there. Purdue rallied really well. Early on, USC punched Purdue in the mouth a little bit. There were some big plays. Purdue struggled to cover USC's guys. But I thought Purdue defended the run pretty well early on. I didn't think USC had a ton going early in the run game. And USC finished with just 4.5 yards per carry. Not bad. But there were a couple of decent runs late in the game that really skewed that. Purdue defended the run pretty well. The pass game was what it was, right? Per completion, USC had 16.6 yards per completion, over 10 yards per attempt. Purdue's secondary got beat by a better wide receiving core. I didn't think there were a ton of big breakdowns in this game. I thought Maeva just found open guys that were better, that were open because they are better receivers that were able to get open. And Purdue did have a few opportunities to pick off some passes that it didn't. There were 3 pass breakups for Purdue in the game that I know Monty Powell had one that probably should have been picked. I think Smiley Bradford had one that could have been picked. Those drives, as I recall, both ended in field goals, but the margins are thin here, man. The margins are really thin. The football gods really canceled things out. Purdue scored on a ridiculous double pass gone wrong when Michael Jackson threw one back to Ryan Browne that probably should have been picked off, that gets scooped up by Browne and he runs into the end zone, only for a drive or two later for Browne to get hit as he lets it go, and the big 360-pounder hauls it 70 yards for a touchdown. That's kind of luck evening out. I thought this game played out about right. I thought things evened out pretty well, where Purdue battled, Purdue hung in there. This wasn't anything to be ashamed of. I think there's a lot of positive here. Purdue moved the ball well. 300 yards passing is better than I had thought Purdue would do, frankly. That looked good. For the most part, on a down-to-down basis, the passing game was all right. Per completion, 12.7 yards, not bad. Purdue moved the ball well in the passing game. The picks were what they were, and this was a really mixed bag for Ryan Browne. He did some good things. Don't get it confused just because there were a couple interceptions that were bad. He battled. He was a warrior in this game. He's a bit of a gamer. You can see that he has some competitive fire to him. He has some resolve to him, because it would have been easy to throw in the towel, to fold after the first pick, after the second pick was just a big blow. It felt like Purdue might be able to get something going, and then that last interception, as I recall, came in the red zone. A touchdown would have cut it to a 1-score game, and really put some pressure on USC, Browne did some all right things. He kept Purdue in the game. And this season, I think it's all about figuring out what you have in Ryan Browne. There are some ups, there are some downs. I don't think he's a transcendent talent type of player, but he does enough good things that you're going to have to grow with him this year. You need to figure out what you have. I don't know that this is a bowl team. This is a team that can win some Big Ten games for sure. You look at Northwestern, you look at Rutgers, maybe Minnesota, maybe Illinois, Indiana. I don't know that these are games that you have zero chance in, but you have to be really good on the margins. Browne is probably good enough to give you a fighting chance against some of those lesser opponents. What you have to figure out is, as you project forward into year 2, is Browne someone that can be a guy to lead you to 6-7 wins next year? And if that answer is yes, great. If that answer is no, you better get ready to go hit the portal. This is a growth process. This is not a 1 week is the answer thing. If you're Purdue, you're hoping you can get all 12 games out of him to get as much data as possible. The problem is, man, he took a lot of hits in this game. He was pressured on almost half of his dropbacks. He was hit a lot. Let me see if I can find here the number of hits he took, because anytime Purdue tried to, only 6 hits and 5 sacks. That 11 hits is a lot. Anytime Purdue tried to have something more developing in the pass game, he was overwhelmed. That right side of the offensive line had a rough day. Ethan Trent and Bekine Coley. That was not a good day for those guys. But USC is bigger. It's better up front defensively than it has been in the last few years. I know from talking to some folks on the USC side, they feel pretty good about that area of their defense, and it overwhelmed Purdue. Browne did some good things. You saw Purdue's pass catchers do some all right things. Michael Jackson, seven catches for 70 yards. E.J. Horton, 5 for 70. Nitro Tuggle, 4 for 69. Looked like they were really trying to get George Burr in the ball. He had 4 catches. A lot of shorter stuff for him. Purdue did some good things in the pass game that make you a little bit encouraged. Even though you had some red zone picks, some of that came because Purdue couldn't run the ball. On the first possession, or maybe it was the second possession, when that ball got picked off on the third down play, on second down, Purdue brought Malachi Singleton in the game for a designed run. I don't love that stuff. I don't think it's particularly beneficial. It got Purdue a couple yards, but it was telling on how Purdue felt about its traditional run game, because the traditional run game got nothing going. Devin Maccabee had a 17-yard run, and aside from that, it was a whole lot of nothing. Purdue just couldn't get anything going on the ground. 28 carries for 60 yards net. I mean, Purdue really, I don't want to say Purdue abandoned the run, but it became apparent very quickly that the run game wasn't going to be something Purdue was going to have success in. And when you become sort of one-dimensional in the red zone and you have to throw it, you do leave yourself open for some trouble there. Both of those picks, the one where Browne's rolling out, tries to throw across his body and pulls it right into the defender's arms, a ball that shouldn't have been thrown. It just shouldn't have been. The second one, that slant route, Purdue has done so well this year. Purdue does a really good job of trying to get stuff going outside to then hit the middle. And on that play, USC just knew it was coming. Purdue has hit that slant route a ton early on this year. A ton. I even had a note at one point of things to talk about that Purdue has done a really good job of getting that slant route, and then I kind of had to scratch that out after the interception. But a pretty, USC was just kind of waiting for it, and it's part of it. I don't think Browne saw the safety there lurking, probably stared his guy down a little bit. We'll see when I rewatch it. But, when you can't run the ball, the offense becomes one-dimensional, and that is a concern coming out of this game. It was a concern coming into the game. Yes, Purdue ran for 200 yards last week. It needed 53 carries to do so. Against Southern Illinois, only 5 of your 53 carries go for 10-plus yards. That's concerning. That was concerning. Purdue didn't run the ball particularly well against Ball State. This was foreseeable, and that's a concern as you move forward. Purdue's going to have to find some way to get some stuff going in the run game, because you're seeing good flashes from Ryan Browne. You're seeing things you can build on, but I don't know that you're seeing some transcendent talent that can go throw the ball a ton and win you games, kind of the way Purdue did in 2021 with Aiden O'Connell and David Bell and Milton Wright and Payne Durham and TJ Sheffield and Jackson Anthrop. I don't know that Purdue has that type of pass game this year, because that year Purdue could not run the ball and it didn't matter. You're going to have to run the ball better. And I don't know that you can have Browne do a ton of designed run stuff. It was telling that in this game, Purdue only called one designed run for Ryan Browne. You can't let him just get teed off on it. If you got to keep him healthy, because I do think he's your best option at quarterback. I know it didn't take long for the wish casting for the backup quarterback to begin yesterday. I don't know that solves anything. I think you have to grow through Browne and some of the growing pains that come with someone who's only making his 5th start in a brand new system, 3rd start in the system. And this is the first time he's played a real credible opponent. It is what it is, man. There were some real positives here. The defense kept battling. It forced USC to kick 5 field goals. That's a big positive. Now, you have to grow into not letting the opponent get to 5 field goals, but there's something to be said for that. That's a positive. That's a good thing. The offense kept fighting. Purdue's special teams were good. Purdue's got a punter, man. McAllister was excellent. His stats probably got a little inflated when the last punt rolled pretty good for him, but man, he had a nice day. He did good things. There's room to believe here. I thought Purdue's linebackers continued to play well, getting to the ball. The interior of Purdue's defensive line does some good things. Now, you hope TJ Lindsey can be healthy. He left the game pretty early. That's worth keeping an eye on because he's a really promising guy. But Chops Harkless and Jamarius Dinkins, there's stuff to like there on the interior. Got to get better in the pass rush, though. When Maava had a lot of time to throw, he picked Purdue apart, and there were too many plays where he had a lot of time to throw. 10 yards per attempt is pretty telling there. That tells you a lot. Purdue's got to get better in the pass rush. We'll see if Purdue has the horses to do it, but it was a bummer that this game got delayed by rain. I thought there was a nice buzz around walking over to the stadium, that folks seemed excited. There was a storm early on in the day, and then it cleared up a bit, turned into a nice afternoon, and then a 3-hour and 5-minute rain delay is a real buzzkill. The stadium was maybe 2/3 full. The student section was maybe half full or so for kickoff. A bit of a bummer. There was a lot to be excited about. Purdue was 2-0. I think folks were excited for USC coming to town. Purdue was honoring the Rose Bowl team, had a nice little deal after the first quarter, had a nice deal at halftime to honor Gary Danielson, who's in his last year calling games for CBS. It was a good day, and the rain took a little bit out of it that, if you got more of a charged up atmosphere, does USC make another mistake or two? Does it commit a few more penalties? It's not like Purdue was terribly far off from really putting pressure on USC, and I don't know that USC handled the pressure particularly well. I'm curious to see the Trojans as we move forward this season, because there's things to like there. There are reasons to be concerned. I'm not quite sure what to make of USC. It's going to be worth monitoring what they do here the rest of the year. All in all here, we're 20 minutes in. There's not that much else to say. I took more positives than negatives away from this game. I know the whole idea of a moral victory can be controversial. Some folks don't like that, and I get it. Moral victories are never, you don't come out saying, well, I hope we have a moral victory today. But I thought Purdue had more positives than negatives. It It reflected what you want to reflect, that Purdue played hard, that Purdue didn't give in, Purdue didn't surrender. And if that can continue, is you're playing some teams that aren't as good, the Northwesterns, the Rutgers, I think you feel good about your chances to get a few wins here and build some momentum as a program. I thought this was an overall net positive for Purdue, even though it was a loss, and even though at some point you want to reach the level where you're just winning games. But for right now, this is a roster with real limitations. You saw that. You saw Purdue do its damnedest to overcome that. And I think you really have to hang your hat on something and feel pretty decent if you're a Purdue fan here. That's all I've got for today. I'll have this rewatched by our midweek episode here. We're going to preview Notre Dame. 0-2 Fighting Irish. What an ending in South Bend last night as the Aggies more or less walked that off. Send me your questions. Do so on Twitter at BoilersBeyond. Email me, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. We'll wrap up USC. We will preview Notre Dame and more on the next show. Until then, guys, have a great start to your week and take care.